Tesla rises towards 1,000 a share with the S&P fueling this acceleration. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters, as well as those of you who've liked and subscribed. Your support is greatly appreciated and makes a huge difference. We also want to encourage you to consider our trade consulting. This week, we actually had one client who was up over 150, almost 200% for the week. And it might be something to consider. You can hit us up on Patreon, or you can send us a note on Facebook at Teslafaninsight in a private message. So congratulations to those of you who made a killing this week. It was slightly unexpected. It was expected that Tesla would do well because the shipping of products that was defined a week ago Saturday actually went very well. So it wasn't a shock that the stock was up. It was very impressive to see the power move that happened this week. Up 200 points is wonderful. So we wanted to sort of take some time to sort of go through what's going on. The first thing that I wanted to point out is something I want to say is that there's a new sheriff in town. What I mean by that is that for the second week in a row, we have a situation that occurred where the stock price did not get pinned. So for those of you who already know this, skip ahead a couple of minutes, but basically what's been happening with Tesla pretty much every Friday, in about 80% of the Fridays in the last year, there's been a process going on for Tesla where there's been a pin going on. The large institutions or sort of hedge funds created after these guys learned how to trade at the large institutions have a process that's been happening where they tended to pin the stock price under the nearest number that was available. In this case, there should have been a pin at 800 because there was a lot of call options at 800 and very few puts. And so the market makers would have made a killing if it had stayed below 800. As you saw, it blew right past it at a very high speed. What this really illustrates is the fact that there's kind of a new sheriff in town, and that sheriff is the S&P and the S&P process. So what should have happened Friday is the stock, sort of got into the 800 realm, pulled back just below 800 and finished out the day. That did not occur. It just went way nuts at a high of 886, maybe it was 890 for the day, but the numbers were awesome to watch. So the question is kind of what's going on here and what does the future look like? Well, I definitely think that keeping an eye on pins makes sense because there are people, even if they don't have huge amounts of capital, that are able to still sort of manage the market to move in ways that they would prefer. So I think that we're kind of in what was argued by another YouTuber in an interview, and I would agree. We talked about something that we call the S&P process. So what that means in this case is that there's an example of kind of what's going on is there's a company called CalPERS or CalSTRS. They're a couple of the largest sort of pension funds in the world, and they're the pension fund for the state of California. What actually happened is that, or happens, is that as of like 8 years ago, there was a process where the state of California would ship $300 million a month of retiree money to the companies that manage that money. And if you break it down, I would say 70% of it goes towards stocks these days. And then of that, probably half of it is going towards the S&P in one way or another, at least. So theoretically, the first of every month, I guess in this case, if you do, drop to 70. So they had $250 or $220 million hitting, and that was 8 years ago. Now, let's say they have a $500 million, $600 million of money coming just from that one. So if you try to encapsulate when you go around the world to pick up all the other pension funds that are out there, it's not inconceivable that you have billions of dollars, let's say 5 or 10 billion a month, that's coming in, 70% of it going to stocks, half to 2/3 of that going towards the S&P, and then Tesla is 1.5% of that now that it's in the S&P. So in essence, there's a guaranteed run of cash that's coming directly at Tesla every month. And so the question mark is, what happens to that money? And the answer is, it would partially go into Tesla / as an S&P participant. And then what happens is that, as was articulated by another interview, was that you now have a situation where Tesla has an increasing market cap, and it's gone from about 1.5% of the S&P to about 1.9%. So now we have an interesting problem, because you have this back and forth happening where Tesla becomes 1.6%. All the other companies, the S&P, have to be sold off, and that cash has to be used to buy Tesla. Tesla becomes 1.7%. Same routine again, 1.8, 1.9. So when is this back and forth going to stop? Well, we kind of saw it this week occur. I kind of feel like it's going to continue for a bit, and we don't know for how long. But do not be surprised if we see another 200 to 300 points worth of upward movement for Tesla in the interim, and then somewhat of a correction afterwards. So it's, it was a crazy situation, and we look forward to more of it, hopefully, and that hopefully you're making money in the process. But it's a great time to own the stock outright rather than doing options. But I think that there's a huge amount of money to be made on the options if you choose to go on that route. So I'm fascinated because, $800 billion in terms of market cap for Tesla, given what the market cap is for competing firms, it definitely seems a little bit high. But one of the best or biggest entertainments I'm getting as the stock rises is just the fact that the metrics that are being used make sense. And it's just interesting to watch how they kind of may not apply in certain circumstances, because if you have a supply and demand problem, not that many shares to be purchased or being sold, an increasing number of people that want to be in the stock. And then as the stock is rising, the fact that it's rising causes it to rise more as it goes through the S&P process. So I think this could be a very wild situation over the next, couple of weeks, because I think there's going to be announcements made by the Biden administration once it's in that's supportive of everything Tesla does with energy and electricity. And as those new monies start rolling in, I think it's going to justify a very high price for Tesla's stock. Because it has 4 years of sort of unlimited growth across a number of platforms, be it home solar, be it solar being used in businesses, in terms of large facilities being put up that Tesla's at the center of based on their expertise in this space. So again, congratulations to all of you that have done well. I wanted to review something that I just thought that was instructive about how the markets can work, particularly against Tesla. There's a trading situation, for those of you who have been in Tesla for a while will remember, in February of last year, after earnings came out in January, there was this process that happened where there was a gentleman where if Tesla's stock price reached a certain number, I think it was 750, by a certain date, the market makers were going to lose a lot of money. So they went through this process where first it turns out that the stock was at 916 when this whole process started. The stock it was heading towards 900 at the time. And then what happened was there was one of these firms that potentially ended up with a huge loss that put a news story out on a negative news story out on Marketplace that kind of moved the stock just below 900. As it moved below 900, there are a lot of stop losses that started hitting. And then what they did was they actually shorted the stock. So they went out and borrowed shares. I think it was 2 million shares. And then they sold those shares immediately for below market prices. So what this did was the already momentum that we had going down was accelerated by the selling that they did at a below market price. What this further did is there's a large numbers of bots or computers that are set up to, I want to say, sell first, ask questions later. So in essence, what they did was, as soon as the computers saw a number of downward trends for the shares, they immediately started selling. Within 24 or 48 hours, the stock had gone from 916 to below 750 into the high 600, low 700s. And the process I just described to you is how it got there quickly. So the goal of keeping it below 750 by Friday of that week was achieved. And then immediately the stock jumped 100, 150 points when it wasn't no longer under pressure by well-schooled market makers in terms of how to control a stock. So I kind of bring this up to you because there are new dynamics happening right now for Tesla. We've seen the process by which we get the stock pinned on a Friday, and then a pinned Friday stock gives folks a nice return Monday, Tuesday, particularly if you're trading options. Now we have new patterns developing. The S&P folks are like, forget about what you're doing. We're doing our thing, and we have large amounts of money with which to do it. So right now, I really feel like there's a battle between two fairly large constituencies with Tesla in terms of what's going to happen. And I really think that as we're readjusting for what the new environment's going to look like, I think we're in a nicely upward trend for the stock. So I'd have to say that who knows what the top end of this run is going to be before it starts to give back. We'll know it when we see it, obviously. But I don't think it's over yet because typically the weekend gives a lot of people an evaluation of what to occur. The other thing is the market was positive, so I think that helps in the process as well. And I really think that the Biden entrance and the initiatives that they think are important are also going to be shaping this dialogue as well. So we very much look forward to your input on this. We also look forward to this rising again. Don't forget, drop us a note if you'd like some trade consulting, particularly on options. Happy to do so. And I think you'll be impressed by what the opportunities are. The client we worked with this week started with 150K at the beginning of the week and finished up around 400K after 2 days, and was very happy to sort of do that run. But I do believe that the challenge is that you can get returns like that, but there's a little bit of luck involved in terms of finding the right circumstance with Tesla. And I just have this thing where I think another 2 or 3 days are appropriate, and then we are heading towards what's going to happen with earnings for Tesla, which I think are going to be really good based on what we saw for vehicle production. And as long as Elon doesn't say something negative about the company, I just think the next couple of weeks are going to be barn burners for Tesla in a positive upward direction. So we very much look forward to your comments on this. Please drop us a note. Also, with constructive comments, we'd like to next focus on our health tips. Don't forget you need 25 leg lifts per leg with a 5-pound weight each day. Strengthens the quad muscles, reduces the chance of knee issues. The second thing is fried foods no more than once a week. Avoids type 2 and other types of diabetes issues. Number 3, don't go to bed within 2 hours of eating, preferably 4 hours to let the food fully digest, reducing the chance for acid reflux or other issues. Number 5 is an SPF of 30 or better. And I guess we'd make number 6 today. Just a reminder regarding if you're headed towards lovemaking, highly recommended that you consider eating a salad or something very light, because the amount of blood flow to digest that food will be limited, leaving blood flow for other activities. So, any rate, want to thank you again for joining us. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tschüss, German, au revoir, French. Lahitro, Hebrew, Khoda Hafez, Farsi, Zdravstvuyte, hello in Russian, Ni hao ma, hello in Chinese, E bueno, e la vita, Italian, Como vai, tudo bem, Portuguese, and Konbanwa, Japanese, Namaste, Hindi, and in Hey Do, Swedish, and in Jamaica we say Nuff respect, walk, Woodman. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. Bye for now, and we look forward to your comments.